Om Shanti. So, welcome once again for this retreat. I'll be just speaking in English and a bit in Hindi because we will be having a mixed group. Charlie Bhai will be joining us shortly. But before he joins us, I would just want to tell everyone that this is our 18th episode of this Kumar Kare Kamal retreat. We started since last year at the time of pandemic in the month of June. And you can see over on the screen, we have covered different topics. अलग-अलग विषय लिए गए हैं. And we have just completed 1 year a couple of months before. And today we are for a wonderful retreat by Charlie Bhai, who will be joining us from Australia. So before he joins us, let us spend some time reflecting on this topic, falling in love with purity. कुछ समय हम इस पर थोड़ा मंथन करेंगे, विचार करेंगे. तो ये होगा ब्रेकआउट रूम में. तो हमारे साथ अलग अलग भाषा के आत्माएं जुड़े हैं. तो प्लीज़ क्लिक ऑन योर फोन ब्रेकआउट रूम्स and select the room whichever language is suitable for you. Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada. Those who can understand English, they can remain in the same room. No need for you to join any breakout room. And now I would invite Brother Chandan to lead us through this activity, a beautiful activity which will help us reflect and also share. मैं एक बार फिर से हिंदी में रिपीट करता हूँ. जो भी भाई बहनें को इंग्लिश नहीं समझ में आती है, वो ब्रेकआउट रूम पर क्लिक करके आपको जो भाषा अच्छी पसंद आती है या समझती है वो रूम को ज्वाइन करें, क्योंकि फर्स्ट जो पार्ट ये रिट्रीट का है वो इंटरेक्टिव होगा. इसमें आपको आपस में शेयरिंग करनी होगी. सो विद दिस आई इनवाइट ब्रदर चंदन टू लीड अस थ्रू दिस एक्टिविटी. थैंक यू.
Shanti. Thank you, Professor Bhai, and good morning. Warm welcome to all the Kumars in this Kumar Kare Kamal group event today. So we will be going on in a reflection journey shortly in our breakout rooms, and you'll be given 2 questions to reflect upon the topic, which is our topic for today. So I will be telling you the 2 questions right now, but you will be again given some time to reflect upon it and share amongst you all in the session. So the first question is, why does Baba pay so much attention to purity? In what ways there can be leakage of my power of purity? You can also think about today's Murli, because Baba did mention something about leakage. And the second question will be, can you share a practical experience of yours, how purity has helped you to overcome in any situation in your own life? Because once we experience it, it becomes our own power. We become authority of it, the virtue, by becoming an embodiment of it. So we'll be moving into breakout rooms now, and we will be continuing the reflection journey in our own language. So as announced, those who wants to join other languages, please use your own language and you can join that room. For English, you can just stay in the main room. So those who are already in this room, and if you want to start because we have less time, I will repeat the first question, or if you want, I can also share on the screen. Just a second. Just a minute, I'm sharing it. This is for our own reflection, our own churning. So if you are ready, please feel free to start sharing on the first question. The first question I'll repeat, it is coming on the screen also. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So as you can see on the screen, the first question is, why does Baba pays so much attention to purity? So anybody who wants to say, you can raise your hand or you can just start sharing. What are your thoughts? I mean, I can just give some start point, because what Baba has mentioned in the Murli is that only in this institution we adopt this policy of purity. That is the newness that we have. If you want to start now, anyone? What do you think Baba pays so much emphasis on purity? You can unmute yourself and you can speak something if you want to.
Om Shanti.
Brother Om Shanti.
Ashish Bhaijar. Purity is a power to create a better world. Purity is the only power to create a better world.
Very nice point. Yeah. Only through purity we can bring the new age. Yes. Yes, Praful Bhai, go ahead.
I feel purity helps us be free from waste, because pure itself means that cleanliness. So once we are free from waste thoughts, we can conserve more energy. Probably that is the reason Baba focuses on purity.
Yeah, and today's Murli was whole about what kind of waste we are bringing in our mind. Well, very valid point. Yes, Sridhar Bhai, you can unmute yourself and speak.
Om Shanti Brother. The purity is the foundations of Brahmin life, and our golden age also, it's based on the purity power. So that's why Baba is always, pay attention to us, to pay the attention to the pure power of purity. So
yeah, it is the foundation stone of our entire Brahmin life. Very valid point. Thank you. Yes, Sushil Bhai.
Yes. Actually, in our childhood, we can experience the small fun or joy in more better way, more intensely we can enjoy. So to enjoy anything in life, we need the power and the innocence, and purity gives us that power to enjoy everything. So without purity, we can't enjoy anything more intensely or more joyfully. So I think Baba emphasis on purity because of this, and yes, I think one question's answer I can give. Om Shanti.
Thank you. Devashish Bhai has sent on the chat that purity is the natural nature of the soul. So Baba wants us to be very pure. Yeah, valid thought. Anyone else want to share? Because with limited time, we also have to go to second question. Anything else?
Om Shanti, brother.
Om Shanti. Yes, please.
Without purity, means it's a ticket for heaven. Without purity, we can't go to heaven.
Yeah, Baba mentioned one time it's a visa, passport visa. Very valid point. So thank you. You can also reflect upon this question during the day on this Sunday. So going to the next question. So reflect upon your entire life, your Brahmin life so far. It may be 1 month, it may be 10 years, doesn't matter. But think about one instance where you feel purity, the power of purity has helped you to, overcome that situation, that scene of drama, whatever you can say. So take a few minutes or few seconds if you want to reflect upon it, and then you can share a practical experience, how it has helped you. I can start from myself, being when I was in abroad. So as we know, the Western culture is different, but we have the power of purity, and Baba keeps us reminding that we are soul, we are soul. So when we are practicing the being of I am a being, I am soul conscious, then doesn't matter where you are sitting, whom you are interacting, but you will always be antarmukhi or introvert, and then coming into interactions. So that was something which came to my mind. Anybody want to share their experience, own experience? As Baba always says, it becomes your authority once you experiment it, once you apply it. Anybody? Any thoughts? Yes, Ashish, you want to say something?
Yeah. As my experience was that in office situation, we have a corporate culture. In that, many people are talking about some of the other type of language and other things, which create some other like as a not good environment. That time, if we are facing some issues, that time if we feel that okay, we are a pure soul and Baba have created me for that, Baba have given me the like as some power of purity. So that time we can means I have experienced that we help us and myself also for helping my soul and giving me some like separate for all of that people are there.
Yeah. Very true point. Thanks for sharing, Ashish bhai. Anyone else you want to share? You can raise your hand or you can just start talking on by unmuting yourself. Yes, Brother Chetan, you want to say something?
Shanti, I want to say that purity, when we adopt the purity, we are protected from situations like somebody has condemned me, somebody said one thing or the I have not heard on. We are safe from the negative views, negative thoughts. We are in the good connection with the good. And the image of our image also clear to the personality of a Brahma Jivan. Om Shanti Bhaji.
Thank you. So it keeps us free from negative thoughts and all negative attitude. Very true. And I'm getting some feedback on the chat. So yes, brother, go ahead.
Bhaji, soul conscious stage is also part of purity subject. So whenever we are sitting in soul conscious stage, so we can we can rule the situation. Sometimes we may have fearful situation, maybe in our day-to-day life or maybe in our thoughts also. When we situated in soul conscious stage, that we can win the situations so that is also one of the practical experience we can experience.
That's very good. It makes us fearless.
Yes, fearless stage.
Yeah, valid point. Anybody else? Last one to listen.
Shanti, brother. This is Rohit here.
Rohit bhai.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the power of purity, actually, it has helped a lot to change our sanskar and in turn help us to deal with many situations. For myself, right, I feel earlier there were, anger, ego, so much of, other negative, खाद जो बाबा कहते हैं, negative qualities. But upon practicing this purity, power of purity, right, over the period of time, it has started helping me to change my own sanskar in very easier way. And that helped me to deal with the situations in very positive way, very the power of purity gave me the power of acceptance, the power of patience. So all this power has started filling inside, and that helped us personally. That helped me to rule out the other situations in very easiest way, in very simplest way, taking very calmly, and the best way I should be giving that.
Yeah. So in a way, transformation of the sanskars and helping me to imbibe the 8 powers. Yeah.
Right. And that helps me to live a very better life by dealing the situations, people, and people around me. So,
yeah. Okay. So thank you all for your active participation. We'll be going to the main room now. And if you want to reflect more upon the first question, you can see on the screen, this was the Murli from 6th January 82, where Baba was mentioning about the newness or the greatness of purity. So you can reflect upon that in the later day. And for the second part of the question, the leakage, you can check the Murli of 15 December 2005. So use the day today and just go deep within the aspect of purity. And we'll be hearing from Charlie Bhai also, who has already joined us shortly on this topic. So thank you for all the active participation on both the questions. Hope it was helpful for all of you. Om Shanti Brother Charlie. Good morning.
Good
afternoon.
Chanpe. Bye. Good afternoon.
Lovely to see you. Yeah, lovely to see you again. This is the virtual platform of all the Kumars, Charlie Bhai, and going on for nearly 1 year now. And like Baba tells all the Kumars to do wonders and not mischief. So this is a true group who is working to do a lot of wonders in Brahman life and also in service field, definitely. So before we go in the session, I'll just take a minute to introduce you all to Brother Charlie, though you might be already aware about him, but to give a brief introduction. So Brother Charlie is National Coordinator of Brahma Kumaris, Australia, and Chairman of Board of Directors. He has been directing the services of 40 centers in Australia, and there are now 4 retreat centers, whom after also Brother Charlie is looking after it. Brother Charlie is meditation resource, corporate speaker, and a retreat leader, and an inspirational Kumar for all of us. And Brother Charlie has traveled 80 countries all around the globe to share his wisdom and rich expertise in meditation. So that's a small hint towards Charlie Bhai's life. And now I will leave to you, Charlie Bhai, for a couple of minutes for the session. Thank you so much and welcome again.
So thank you so much, Chandan Bhai, and thank you for your lovely welcome. And also thank you to Sushil Bhai, who's been communicating so beautifully with me. I'm sorry. And I'd really appreciate, thank you so much, brothers. I do appreciate, and it's lovely to join the brothers of India. And I, in one way, I feel I should be speaking to you in Hindi. I've been with Baba for a long time. And actually, what happened, I started my Brahman journey in London in 1975. And I began to learn Hindi. I could read Hindi. I learned to read the Muli in Hindi. And one day I said to Daddy Janki, Daddy, I'm learning Hindi. Very proudly, I said, and she told me, waste of time. She said, study Gyan, don't study Hindi. And one of the reasons was that in those days, many felt Vinash was on our doorstep. You know, this was nearly 50 years ago, 46 years ago. Many felt Vinash. So it's a bit like the feeling we have now, but the feeling is much stronger at this time. So brothers, I would love to share some of my own experiences on this topic. And then I think there will be some time for some questions and some interaction. And one of the most powerful questions that I think all of us have is, how close am I to Baba? It's probably the most important question for all of us. And I remember once Baba said, it is on the basis of purity that you feel extremely close to Baba, 1, 2, in front of Baba, so a little bit distant, or 3, quite distant from Baba. And I thought about this a lot because God, Baba, is eternally pure, eternally uninfluenced, retains complete purity and truth. And in a way, if I want to come closer to Baba, I've got to nurture a deeper and deeper purity within myself. And actually, when I came to Baba and I heard about purity, immediately I knew it was right. And I think that's the sanskar of all of us old souls. We know it's right. And by that, I mean not just celibacy, but all aspects of purity. And really, why am I so attracted to Baba? Why do I fall in love with Baba? It's his purity. Because embedded in that purity is innocence, is love, is honesty, is all the things that really attract the heart. And you know, my own experience in this incredible life, which we are all leading, is that when I feel pure and clean inside, I feel really deeply comfortable about myself. You know that lovely feeling? You feel comfortable. But if I don't feel so pure or clean, it feels like something's wrong and there's a deep discomfort inside. And the way I see it, it's almost like the feeling that I've gone against my truth. And that, you know, sometimes that conflicted feeling inside, conflicted with myself, is a very, very uncomfortable place to be in. And yet I think on this journey, a lot of us, we will go through these phases. I think it's a part of our journey. And, you know, at various times in my Brahman journey, I've studied different aspects. And once I went through a whole period of really studying what Baba said about purity. And one sister did a whole Muli search. And she said the main subject that Baba speaks about, the ocean of knowledge, the one who holds eternal truth, is love, like today's Murli. But the second subject that God gives his attention to is purity. And I've read so many Murlis about this. Baba says that purity is the real method for self-respect. And really, my own experience, the more you think and speak and act in a pure way, your relationship with yourself heals. You feel much better about who you are. Purity is the real method for happiness. And really, the seed of all sorrow and unhappiness is impurity. And what does Baba say? Purity is the mother of peace and happiness. Purity is the real method for spiritual power, really becoming spiritually powerful. And I remember once Baba said that the prophet souls had to come in and establish a religion, when nothing was there. How did they do it? The power of purity. They all had to face so much opposition. And really, when you look at the teachings of all the prophets, whether it's Buddha, whether it's Christ, whether it's Muhammad, whatever, Guru Nanak, you find their teaching is actually quite simple. It was the power of their purity that impacted people. And even once Baba said, just as the philosophy of karma is extremely deep, so is the definition of purity. And Baba was saying that, when you go through a day, you're just going through your day and there's a little wave of sorrow through your thoughts, a little wave of sadness. Baba said, that is the seed of gross or subtle impurity. All of these feelings come from my accumulated impurity. Then on the other side, Baba said that a pure soul can never experience sorrow. Even if they are insulted and defamed, they will not feel it. The sign of purity. Purity is so spiritually powerful. And I often feel it's only my ego that accepts sorrow. It's my ego that's addicted to taking sorrow. As I become pure, in a way, the soul becomes egoless, and that really begins to finish. And, many times I ask the question, what is purity? What is purity? For me, purity is a state of being when all aspects of my life are based on truth. Purity is a state of being when all aspects of my life are based on truth. So purity is the seed, and truth is the seed. When I sow the seed of truth in myself, and that truth grows into my thoughts, my feelings, my attitudes, and my behavior, the fragrance is purity. In a sense, purity is the expression of truth. We have lived a life based on absolute falsehood. Everything up until now was false. And that grew the tree of purity out of the sanskaras, impurity. But now when I sow the seed of truth in me deeply, it starts to grow and grow and grow. And the fragrance of that truth is purity in my life. But I think for all of us, there's a huge question. For most Brahmins, I find a big question. And that question is, how can I deepen my purity? How can I access a deeper state of purity in my life? And my own experiments, because I think in this life, we experiment. And my experiment is really that if we sow 3 seeds of truth inside, in the core of my being, in my mind, as they begin to grow, they withdraw the original purity of the soul. The first seed of truth to sow to create a deeper purity is to have all relationships with Baba. And you know, that is the most powerful point of knowledge, actually. And, you know, when I started my Brahman journey, I was in London, as I said, and we had a music group. There was 4 brothers, and we had we sang and played instruments and stuff. And one of the songs that Daddy Janky always got us to sing was Mera to ek Shibaba Dusrana Koi. Even up until the last few years, she used to get me to sing this song. And you know, it's a very deep thing. When I have all relationships with the one who's incorporeal, egoless, and viceless, what do I become? I become the same. But if I have a relationship with Baba who's incorporeal, egoless, and viceless, I love Baba, I have faith in Baba, but I also, the subtle thread of my intellect is also pulled to bodily beings. What happens is that, you know, when I remember bodily beings, if I can say I have yoga with bodily beings, it actually strengthens my impurity. I go back to my old sanskaras and I give power back to my impurity. So on the one hand, I remember Baba to increase my purity. The next millisecond, I connect with a bodily being, a Lokik family member, a Brahman family member. And subtly I strengthen my impurity. And this is really one of the main reasons Brahmins feel I'm not moving forward. I'm not really growing as fast as I would like to. You know, I remember Baba, I follow principles, I follow Srimad, I do that, but I feel I'm treading water. The main reason is because I still am actually connected to bodily beings. And that really means that I can't move forward as I would really love to. I remain a bit stuck. So the first seed to really nurture a deeper purity or relationships with one. The second is to live Srimad. And I say that purposefully, not to follow it, but to live it. Live it means it becomes who I am. It's actually who I am as a person. Some Brahmins see Srimad as rules and regulations. I don't see it like that in any way. To me, Srimad is a deep code of truth that when I live it, it will bring out the original purity and power of the human soul. The third seed that really starts to bring out purity, I would say, is benevolence. You know, Baba's name is the benevolent one. Who is God? God is absolutely benevolent at every millisecond. At the heart of impurity is the sanskara to take. You know, I often feel the mind at the end of the cycle is like a vacuum cleaner, you know? So we're so needy of love, so needy of respect, etc. So if someone gives me love, I take that. Someone gives me respect, the vacuum cleaner takes that. But if someone insults me, I take that. Someone criticizes me, I take everything. This is the state of the really impure soul. And the more I take from one and I give and I give. And this is why service is really a spiritual subject, actually, because it heals this habit of taking sorrow, taking disrespect, all that sort of stuff. The more I give, the less I take this sorrow, this habit. And so when I sow the seeds of these truths, of all relationships with Baba, living Srimad, of a completely benevolent outlook, what happens is it networks with the sanskaras, the original blueprint in the soul. And gently, 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 what starts to move out is a much deeper purity. But I would say purity is impenetrable. You cannot influence purity. Impurity is all about influence. In the golden age, the soul is pure. Nothing can influence the soul. The soul is a full system. I don't need anything. I don't need anything. But when I come to the copper age, I come to that point where I start to need. So I have a desire. And when the soul desires something, it's influenced by whatever I desire. I desire you to love me. And when you love me, I feel good. But if you don't love me, I feel bad. And so that begins to happen. And by the end of the cycle, every little tiny thing influences the soul. Have you ever wondered how sensitive you are sometimes? How the tiniest facial expression or comment or can, put an arrow in your heart, can affect you so profoundly. This is the impurity in the soul. And in a way, I feel Baba's come to heal us from influences. Like God is eternally uninfluenceable, if there is such a word. Nothing can influence Baba. And as I become pure, nothing can influence me, affect me, upset me, disturb me in any way. This is the power of purity. And so Baba comes to heal me of these influences. And the first influence I feel in this journey to healing impurity is the influence of matter. When Brahma Baba left his body, he left us with the Maha Mantra, incorporeal, egoless, and viceless. And I often feel, when I become incorporeal, it heals my relationship with the material world. When I become egoless, it heals my relationship with other human souls. And when I become viceless, it heals my relationship with God. As I become pure, I feel closer to God. And yet the sanskara of lust is the sanskara of attraction to matter. And when you really think, this minute soul, the most subtle of all entities, the soul, that exists but has no physical size, when it is attracted to name and form and shape and color, when it's influenced, it's like I put myself under that influence. And I remember even once Baba said, in the golden age, pure, nothing could influence. Coming into the copper age, the soul becomes attracted in devotion to the name and form of the deities. And that starts to set in this sanskara of being influenced by name and form. But secondly, the second step to healing influence is the influence of other souls. And this is a huge for all of us. We step into Brahman life, we're so affected by those around us. And I remember once Baba said, the seed of being defeated in purity is to be impressed by anyone's virtues, nature, or personality. And then Baba went on to say, to be impressed is to be deceived, and to be deceived is to take sorrow. And Baba said, sometimes we think, I really like this person. I love the way they speak the knowledge. They give me love. They give me cooperation. And we think, is there anything really wrong with that? Baba says to see virtue. But actually, what Baba went on to say is what happens is that Baba subtly goes out of the picture and this human being comes in my focus. This human being starts to, influence my thinking, the name and form of a human being. It's really, really deep. And this is where, purity is where I'm not really influenced, not just by people, but by their opinions, by their ideas. And that's a big thing in this world today. You look at this world at the moment. There's so many opinions on so many levels, so many strong opinions about everything. And really, purity is not to be influenced by others. I appreciate them, I give love, but I'm not under the shadow of another human soul. I'm really under God's canopy. And you know, sometimes I think my reactions to others indicates my level of purity. You know, how much purity do I really have? And I would say that if I reject somebody, if I hold a grudge with somebody, if I give someone the silent treatment, I don't speak to them, I would say I still have ᵉᵘᵱᵃ. It's not about the other person. It's nothing. They're an instrument. In fact, all relationships do is trigger what's in me. They become an instrument to show me who I am. So if they behave in a certain way and I reject them, or I can't forgive them, then really it's revealing to me the quality of my sanskara, that my sanskara is still ᵉᵘᵱᵃ. What are ᵉᵘᵱᵃ? ᵉᵘᵱᵃ is when I get easily upset. A little thing happens, I make it into a big drama. I get easily upset. Or I would say chronic criticism. I mightn't speak it, but in my mind, there's just, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that. I would say that's revealing to me. Even I would say I have a special friend that I download all the rubbish, you know, we talk, we gossip, we criticize. If I'm behaving like that, it's showing I still have ᵉᵘᵱᵃ. Once again, other people are instruments and their behavior triggers what is already in me. What are Rajyoga? They are preferences. I like you, I don't like you. I like the way this one behaves, I don't like the way that one behaves. Preferences. What are Sattva? When my natural reaction to people is to see virtue. My natural reaction is to have goodwill and pure feelings. You know, I've paid so much attention to this in my Brahman life because I honestly believe next to remembering Baba and practicing soul consciousness and following his directions, the main thing is to educate myself, to see good in other people, to see virtues in other people. It's an essential part of the journey. So Baba heals us. And the first step of healing is really with the material world. The second is with others, you know. And the third is really with the old self, healing the influence of the material world, healing the influence of other human souls. But probably the greatest one is to heal the influence of my old self on my present self. And you know, the way, once Baba was speaking, maybe 15 years ago, and Baba said, for spiritual progress, let go the I of arrogance and the I of disheartenment, Baba said, like lack of self-respect, and emerge the I of soul consciousness. And you know, ever since then, I've sort of really realized that there's three personalities inside all of us at the end of the cycle. Two of them take me deeper into impurity, but one of them is going to really lift me into the journey of, naturally, the journey of purity. The first personality, you know, I call the I of arrogance or the I of superiority. And this personality takes this whole sense of identity from my body, the addiction I've had for 63 births. And when this personality is ruling my inner world, I compare with others. And I think I am better, I know more, I am right. Baba once defined ego, this thought, the way I see things is right. But when it comes into my feelings, when I'm under the influence of my ego, That's when I so easily feel insulted, disrespected, not valued, excluded, sensitive. And I would say that whenever I'm under the influence, I'm feeling hurt, insulted, not valued, disrespected, I'm a bit sensitive, know I'm being deceived. My ego is deceiving me. My impurity, which is my ego, is deceiving me at that time. And when I wear the spectacles of ego, it distorts my whole perception of who I am and what is happening around me. And so my ego keeps influencing me. And I'm hurt, I'm upset, I don't think this is right, no one respects me. All that sort of thinking is total self-deception. The second personality is the flip side, is what Baba called the eye of disheartenment, or the eye of lack of self-respect. And this eye also compares with others and thinks others are better, others know more, others are right, others don't love me, others don't value me, others don't respect me. I tell you, that's just like a record inside many people's minds. No one appreciates me, no one respects me. And when it comes into my feelings, when this eye is ruling in my inner world, I feel hopeless about myself. I feel inadequate. I feel unworthy, inferior, and I would say depressed. You know, in psychology, depression is like a sadness that my dream in life to be loved and valued and respected hasn't happened. But in spirituality, depression is like a mourning for the loss of my true identity. I'm living my life, but who am I? And this is the third eye, is the original eye. I, the eternal soul. Because when I'm under the influence of hopelessness, I'm not good enough, everything's not, you know, I'm being deceived also. So my impurity of my ego or my lack of self-respect distorts my thinking. I'm being deceived. Baba's come to heal me of deceiving myself by the practice of soul consciousness. But honestly, this practice of soul consciousness is a lifelong practice. And I quite frankly think most of us today are very superficial in our practice. It's sort of more a belief than a really deep, deep pilgrimage to the experiencing the truth of who I am. And so what happens is that when I'm under the influence of my ego and lack of self-respect, one day I'm up, the next day I'm down, you know, up and down, emotions. One day I feel on top of the world, 1 minute I feel down, you know, fluctuations. This is the deep, deep healing of the influence of my body conscious self, the two children of body consciousness, my ego and my lack of self-respect. And so Baba comes to heal us from the influence of matter, heal the sanskara of lust, heal us from the influence of others, being impressed and influenced, heal us from the influence of my old self. And then complete purity is an unbroken link with Baba. You know, nothing can disconnect me from God. And this is what all of us want. We began in that elevated state, we lost it. And now in these final few moments of the confluence age, to really restore the depth of purity in myself, I have to sow that truth. But it is a journey. And that's why, you know, when I've reflected deeply on this myself, you know, it's not just enough to come into Brahman life and follow principles. Yeah, that will make me a little bit pure. I actually have to consciously nurture. And the way I feel works is to fall in love with purity. Why? Because I think a lot of us believe it in our head. We sort of know it's right, you know, we're old souls, we're deity souls, we know it's right. My head tells me one thing, but my feelings tell me something else. And this really means that my feelings keep attracting me to people. And sometimes I can be conflicted inside. My head's saying be pure, and my feelings are pulling me strongly to all sorts of different things. And it creates a little bit of conflict. You know, what I really find is that I have to go deeper into the attainment of purity, because nothing will restore a sense of beautiful feeling inside of self-value, feeling comfortable about myself, feeling really, really deep self-respect. It's purity that heals the relationship with me. And when I really understand the attainment, I fall in love with it. If I don't fall in love with it, I'm pulled. Sometimes I'm okay, and then sometimes the old feelings come and pull. This will happen to everyone to a certain extent, because we've had 63 births of impurity. The second step on the journey to purity is really to create an internal environment to bring out a deeper state of purity. And that's really where I have to make a decision in my life. Am I really going to do this BK thing properly, or am I going to be half-hearted? Because sometimes we sort of keep one foot in the old world and one foot in with Baba. You know, we're sort of doing the split, so to speak. You know? We want from Baba, but we're really, you know, a bit want from the world as well. And to really bring out that deeper purity, which creates a sense of inner stability, if I really sow the seeds of those truths, all relationships with one, that's a big decision to make. That, yes, and I find that the way to live Brahman life is to do it fully. To keep half of me in the world and half of me, that doesn't work actually. You don't really get benefit either way. The way to really live this life is to do it with a full heart. And what that really means is that I really sow the deep seed. Baba is my world in this life. I'm going to follow what he tells me to do. And I'm really going to make a decision to have such incredibly benevolent feelings for everyone around me. That is a highly transforming thing. I find when you hold that, automatically it will network with the original sanskaras. The blueprint is in me, and I feel lighter, easier, and more peaceful. This is my own experience. And I think 15, 20 years ago, Baba talked a lot about the 5 forms. Do you remember the 5 forms? And Baba asked us all to travel around the cycle. Sometimes he said in 5 seconds. The eternal form, the original form, the devotional form, the Brahman form, the angel form. And really, I was really found that absolutely fascinating, because in a sense, we have 5 sets of sanskars. We have the eternal set, they're completely pure. We have the original set, they're completely pure. We have the devotional set, they're all about impurity. We have the Brahman set, which is the effort to become pure, and the angel set, which are pure. In other words, the majority of my sanskaras are pure. And what Baba was trying to get us to do, because we get so engrossed in my present set of sanskaras, it's like a big weight on the soul, my impurity, my weakness. And yet Baba wanted to travel and taste the feeling of my eternal sanskaras, my original sanskaras, my angel sanskaras, because I get so locked into the present. But actually, this little present window is the most tamo-pradhan state of the sanskaras. The majority of the cycle, the sanskaras are pure. And I've got to actually taste and reconnect with those sets of sanskars. So it's like I make a decision. Firstly, I really try to learn how to love purity. Secondly, I make a decision in my life that I'm really going to create the internal environment to nurture, pull out what is already in me, my eternal and original sanskaras. The third thing is that storms will come. Baba never ever says storms might come. There is not a BK that does not have storms. And quite honestly, every one of us has the 5 vices, male, female, old and young. No one escapes the storms of Maya. And storms will come. Sometimes typhoons and earthquakes come. You know, things we never imagined come. And we think, oh, this is not right. Actually, it's all a part of the process. Even Brahma Baba said, storms come first to me. So don't feel hopeless. Where was the Gita set? On a battlefield. The battlefield is the mind. If you know the Western story of Ulysses, Ulysses is an amazing story of this great warrior on a journey having to face all these massive obstacles, which are the 5 vices, symbolic of the 5 vices. You all even know the word jihad. You know, in this world, it's interpreted as fight the non-believer, fight the one who doesn't believe in my belief. But originally, the jihad meant fight the impurity inside, you know, fight my own weakness, my own Maya, my own impurity. So storms are going to come. And I feel that a mature, knowledgeful soul won't overreact to the self. Because sometimes we overreact and we think, oh, this doesn't work. Maybe I'm not a Brahmin. Maybe I can't become pure. The self-doubt kicks in. And then that pushes me into having 1 foot in the world and 1 foot in Brahman life. And I feel even more confused. No, don't overreact. It's going to come. Don't be afraid. Maya's power is fear. I become afraid of my own weakness, afraid of my own impurity. There is impurity in the soul. But I really feel Baba's method is not to fight directly the impurity, but to re-emerge the purity. And that begins to, you know, take over the impurity, so to speak, or influence it, shift it out of the way. And really, my feeling is no matter what comes in front of you, never, ever give up. Because we are old souls. We are happiest when we're engaged with our truth. And that means sometimes it's a challenge. It is a big challenge. You know, my head tells me I want to feel pure, but my sanskaras are pulling me in another direction. That will happen. That is a part of the journey. So I fall in love with purity. I create an internal environment to nurture deeper purity. I'm aware that the storms are going to come and challenge me deeply. You know, sometimes I feel the first level of change are just habits. So when we come into Gyan, we change our eating habits, we change our sleeping habits, etc. And that's easy. And we sort of feel, yeah, this is pretty easy. The second level of change is what I call soft sanskars. The sanskars recorded in the last few lives of the cycle. It could be sanskaras of intolerance, impatience, sort of twisting the truth, this sort of thing. And with effort and Gyan and yoga, we can change them. But the third are these deep sanskaras that have been recorded since the beginning of the Copper Age. These are things like fear, insecurity, lack of self-respect. They're so deep. They are really deep. And this is really the deep, deep work. It needs an incredible amount of courage. Anyone who's really taken on this life, I have ultra respect, because why is this world like it is? Because all souls are under the influence of these deep sanskaras, and we've had the courage to say, I'm going to try to shift out of these and become a pure soul once again. And so that third step, acknowledging storms are going to come and challenge me. As soon as you say to yourself and Baba, I'm going to be pure, storms will come to challenge you. The fourth step, I would say, is honesty with myself. This is essential on the road to purity. Because if I'm sowing the seeds of, I'm following Srimad, I live the life, I'm doing everything, but I'm not really feeling I'm moving forward. There's still a lot of impurity inside. I have to be really honest. Where's the leak? Where is the leak in my purity? And often I find sometimes we hold this attraction to someone inside. We may not speak to another human soul about it, but I fantasize with an attraction for somebody inside of me. That's a big leak in this Brahman life. Or I maintain a dependent relationship. A dependent relationship, you can't underestimate. The more dependence you have, whether it's on your parents or anybody, it will reduce your ability to experience God's love, really. The way this life works is when I have all relationships with Baba, Baba will fill me with all his love. But if I share my heart with too many, and that's a big thing because these dependent relationships are big. And sometimes you want to be pure, but others in your family are so dependent on you that we fall into that thing. It's a big thing, learning how to give love to your family, give respect to your family, be close to your family, but not dependent. This is a real state of purity, because we sort of think it's a bit harmless. So it's not that much. Actually, it really reduces your ability to connect with Baba deeply. Any dependent relationship, the subtle thread of your yoga goes to that being and not to Baba. And that's where I think I have to be absolutely honest with myself. Where is the leak? Am I really feeling dependent on family members? Am I really attracted to somebody subtly? I just hold this little fantasy in my mind about a particular person. And even I may feel, Baba calls it semi-lust. I may feel I'll never fulfill it, but it's still tantalizing my thinking. And when I've really decided to really try to develop love for purity, when I've created that inner environment, I've become resilient, knowing that storms will come to challenge me trying to create purity. And I'm absolutely honest with myself. I don't try to deceive myself in any way. That honesty is so important. To me, one of the main sanskaras of bhakti is self-deception. You know, in bhakti, you go and praise God, and then you go out and do tamo-pradhan actions. Really, it's like the brain is not working. On one side, I'm praising God, and on the other side, once I was in South America, in Colombia, and there was ongoing upheaval in that country for many years, like a civil war. And sometimes they used to recruit young boys, 10 years old, to assassinate leaders, because people never thought children will do it. And you know what used to happen? These little boys, they were paid huge amounts of money. It's a very poor country. So some families got their sons to go and assassinate somebody, and they would get $10,000 for doing that, which is a huge amount, US dollars. You know what they did? They would give half of it to the church. I mean, on the one hand, do such a gross action, and then on the other hand, give some charity of that gross deed to God. This is the world in which we live. Sometimes we're in such a self-deception that I can do tamo-pradhan actions, and it's almost like I blink it out of my mind. I don't even sort of acknowledge that I'm doing these actions. Because then the final step is that yogi life, that pure life, that deep connection with one. And I live in this world and my life, such a beautiful life. What is the most beautiful life? I'm in love with one, and my whole life is just to give to others. The whole reason, I'm in a Lokik family, I'm in a job, everyone, I'm an instrument to give upliftment. What a beautiful life. You know, when you look at the life of the daddies, every waking second they were giving. And actually it fills you, it doesn't drain you. Because you're taking from Baba, Baba's filling you up, and then you're just radiating what you've taken from Baba. That is a supremely beautiful life. And that life is also a recipe for purity, I would say too. And so it's a really, really big subject. And all of us are challenged by deep aspects of impurity, of all 5 vices. But keep on the path, never give up. And really, if I sort of think I'll follow some of what Baba tells me, it doesn't work. You've got to follow the whole package. When I really do the whole package with a true heart, not like a devotee, just doing it like I feel I should, no. Out of love for myself and for Baba, I wake up early and I really go on the pilgrimage with Baba. I listen to the Murli with a lot of attention, and I really live this life with a lot of love. Then I think it really creates a quality of purity inside. Anyway, I'm going to wind up there. And if anyone would like to ask something, Sushil, will you speak the questions to me from the chat box?
Sure, Bhaiji. First of all, thank you very much. It was such a wonderful topic, and you have covered so many aspects of purity and how to attain the purity. What are the steps to attain the what are the steps on the journey of attaining purity? And we have covered, I think, in short period of time. It was really very wonderful. And Baba always says, "Kam bolo, dheere bolo, meetha bolo, satya bolo, soch kar bolo." So that means like speak less, speak sweetly, and speak thinkfully. Those all qualities we just witnessed in you, and it was a really wonderful experience. So we are opening this time for question. This is time for questions and answers. If anybody has questions, kindly type in the chat box, or you can, those who are joining, have joined on the YouTube, they can also post their questions on the comment box. And just for your information, Bhaiji, there are almost 80 brothers, 90 brothers on Zoom, and through YouTube, almost 200 to 250 brothers are there. So more than around 300 brothers are attending this session, and all were very excited. And I really hope that they are really happy with this class. But some questions, any questions are there? While I already got some offline question. One question is that celibacy, to maintain celibacy or to observe celibacy, there are different levels: physical level, mental level, and spiritual level. And some of us find spiritual celibacy very easy. I mean, purity at spiritual level, and purity at mental level. Some of us feel physical purity is easy and mental purity is difficult. So there are these 2-3 levels are there. So can you guide us, Bhaiji, on different levels? Different challenges will be there, and different level of difficulty we find based on our sanskar and all. How we can make it easier to observe purity, observe celibacy? How we can make it easy? We feel it difficult. That was the question.
I think the reality is, one is we're quite different, but for most, you know, we've had 63 births of, you know, impurity. So I think that we've got to be a bit realistic. But the real issue begins with spirituality. And really, if I want to create, it's actually a cascade, the spiritual, the mental, and the physical. You can only really follow celibacy properly physically when you've done the work spiritually. The seeds are in your, and that's really where I have all relationships with one. And this is really the seed of the spiritual practice. And that really means that my heart is attracted to Baba. Now, the habit of the heart is to be attracted to human beings and their name and form, etc. But really, when there's that experience of God's love so deeply, that attraction to the temporary love of human beings goes. And mentally, I think the main thing Baba always says is to see the soul in the body. The profoundly deep sanskara. Now, most Brahmins listen to that and they just imagine a point. That's still body consciousness. I'm still seeing a body and imagining a point there. It's actually when I experience myself to be a bodiless soul, I see beyond the name and form of any human body, and they don't influence me, and I'm not impressed. And these are the deep efforts, actually. This life is a really deep life of paying attention. And I feel that it, you know, sometimes I've heard Baba saying the highest effort amongst all efforts is to see the soul in the body. And for me, you know, over the years, I've practiced, you know, at first, I think when I started, I just imagined the soul. Then as I experienced being a bodiless soul, I could see a bodiless soul. Then I began to experience, in a way, how I'm incorporeal and I can see the non-physical in the physical. That makes you quite detached from the other name and form. But finally, to really see that, not only see the soul, but see the part. This soul's just playing out their eternal part. So I'm not attracted by them. I'm not influenced by them. I don't dislike them or like them, whatever. But I have that love and good wishes. You know, it's everything begins at the soul level, really. And the whole heart of purity is having all relationships with Baba. And that's very deep. Sometimes we say, yes, I'm a Kumar, I have all relationships, but actually my mind is pulled to many people. And really, in a subtle way, maybe not even that gross, but really, when that seed sanskara is there, that's the beginning of creating a much deeper sense of purity. And when that's there, celibacy becomes natural and easy. So the work really starts at the spiritual and mental level.
Yes.
I do notice that I think Mansoor's had his hand up a few times.
Yes, Mansoor brother is there, but before than that, we have got many questions on my personal chat box. One very interesting question is there. BK Suresh brother is asking, why does Baba says Kama Mahashatru, not to anger?
Sorry?
Why Kama is a Mahashatru? Why lust is the biggest enemy, not anger? Why Baba says like that?
Yeah, because, you know, when you really understand how the soul has lost all its power and happiness, it's because lust, as I was saying, I'm a soul. It's just this tiny, minute spark here. And this subtle divine entity has become so attracted to gross material things and name and form. And it's really made the soul lose all its power, all its happiness. And really, I think that we've got to deeply understand this. Otherwise, the soul will keep, you know, Baba even says sometimes it's not even gross lust, it's subtle lust, in a sense that I'm just really pulled by people, even pulled by things I read and all this sort of stuff. It just distorts. It creates an environment of impurity in myself. And I would say that it's the seed of it is a distortion of love. All of us need love. Love is the beauty of life. And so we have been, we've been on this sort of deception that a physical relationship is love. It's not love. Love is a spiritual experience. And the highest spiritual love, the purest form of love, is the love with God. And I think once I taste that love, I really not believe it. I find some Brahmins believe Baba's the ocean of love, but don't really feel. But when I feel Baba, the attraction to Baba is so strong, then the pull towards the old habits of lust and the vision of bodily beings and so on has less and less power. You know, really, lust is the sanskar that's really made me think I'm the body. And that is the seed. What does Baba say? The seed of all sorrow is when the soul forgets itself and thinks I'm a temporary body. So lust is the seed of temporary experience. Whereas, you know, love is the seed, love for Baba, of permanent love. You know, you can never, ever satisfy a desire, ever. All that does is you want more, you want more, you want more, and so there's addiction. And look at this world. People are addicted to everything. Everything. It's a sign the soul has lost all its power through desire, and lust is the seed of basically all desires. It's not just lust, physical lust, it's lust for power, lust for control, lust for this, lust for that, you know, it's desire.
Sure, sir. Sure, brother. I hope it clears it out. One more interesting question is there.
Sushil, there's some noise. Is that, there's some noise. It's a bit hard to hear. Is that?
Which one? Mine voice you are talking about?
Is there someone speaking behind you or somebody, I don't know if someone's unmuted or something, but
okay,
it's sometimes a little hard to hear.
Okay. Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I think Manzoor brother from Kashmir raised hand. He want to ask one question. So Manzoor brother, you can ask.
First of all, Om Shanti to everyone.
Om Shanti.
Brother, I would like to thank you for this wonderful session. My question is very brief. Brother, I found ego a dominating factor, dominating trait in people around me. So please tell me something about ego and how to get rid of it. My second point is, you mentioned about the influence of our old self. Can you please elaborate it a little more? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mansoor. You know, there's a deep relationship between ego and love. Fundamentally, the more ego I have, the less love I experience in life. And the human spirit, to flourish and have a beautiful life, we need love. And yet, as I was really saying before, that, you know, the role of ego, what is the role of ego? The role of ego is to make you feel separate. So ego makes you feel separate from others. You know, you're very conscious, me and you, us and them. I have so much ego you know, of my body, my religion, my nationality, my culture, my family, my profession. And so if anyone says a word about it, I feel offended, I feel angry. This is childish, immature, and very unspiritual behavior. And yet ego is an incredibly powerful thing, but the two types of ego, and you know, that's what I was really talking about. The old self is the ego of superiority and the ego of inferiority. There's two types. The soul is free from ego. The soul is naturally humble. But when the soul forgets itself and becomes a body, then it gives birth to the ego of superiority and the ego of inferiority. So the ego of superiority is the one that's offended, hurt, insulted, disrespected, gets very angry and aggressive. And the ego of inferiority is the one that feels hopeless, inadequate, inferior, and really, you know, dislikes the self, whatever. The mind has been absolutely dominated by ego. You know, once, maybe about 10 years ago, Baba at different times would emphasize the effects of ego. And at one point he kept saying the main ego is the feeling that I am right. The way I see life, the way I see situations, things should be done my way. You know, ego, there's gross ego, there's subtle ego, there's refined ego. It's so deep. The only way that I can actually start to rid myself, because they're like shadows over the soul. I often think they don't let the light in. And the more ego of superiority and inferiority, I can't connect with Baba. I can't connect with Baba. But the more I really practice that I am an eternal, immortal, non-physical soul. And really, my experience is in the beginning of this yajna for 14 years, Baba set up this almost like a live-in soul conscious workshop. Baba absolutely was strict about body consciousness, and all the body consciousness. People from rich families had to, you know, do the cleaning, and all this ego we have about my status, it's all temporary. To break down this ego and the deep practice of soul consciousness. I've done many experiments over the years in soul consciousness, because I feel often we've hardly scratched the surface. We're 5%, 3% soul conscious, really. When you're soul conscious, nothing will influence you, nothing will upset you. You'll have good wishes for everybody. You won't feel insulted by anyone, even if they in your face criticize you. You know, because I think a lot of the culture in the Brahmin family these days is service, service, service. Whereas really, the real service is to change myself and become like an example of a new type of human being. I live in this world, I fulfill responsibilities, but I do it with so much humility. Daddy Prakashmani was an extraordinary leader because she was absolutely humble, had no ego of her position. That's so unheard of in this world. People have, the reason people want power and position is because they lack self-respect. So they want to get their respect externally because they can't give it to themselves. You know, really the method to conquer ego is to experience God's love. The more I really feel so loved by God, I let go this identification. In fact, ego is an attachment to a false self. I, the eternal soul, become attached to a temporary image. It's so temporary. You know, I'm in the body today and tomorrow I'm out of the body. And the whole identity based on, you know, my position, my role, all this sort of thing, it is utterly superficial. But unfortunately, that governs our world at the moment. It's a very powerful thing in our world at the moment.
Thank you very much, brother. There is one more interesting question, is that often it is been said that purity is a mother of not only happiness and bliss, but it is also mother of creativity. How purity is related to creativity? That is the question, Bhaiji.
I think that's a really beautiful question. And I would say that it's absolutely true. Because the more you're impure, you're sort of bound by a whole lot of beliefs about yourself, about the world around you. And it suppresses creativity, because I think, oh, this is how things are. But actually, the more I step back into that purity, I sort of step out of all the self-imposed limitations. In a way, you know, what is soul consciousness? It's stepping outside of all the little box I've put myself in. I've put myself in this little box. I can't do this. I'm not good at this. I'm shy. I'm this, I'm that. You know, I've put myself in that box, and that's who I am. But when I become pure, I take away the box. So I have unlimited potential and unlimited creativity. And really, you know, sometimes I'm absolutely touched by the creativity of Baba's children. And, you know, I was only mentioning in class here this morning, I remember once Baba said to one of the Australian brothers, Baba said, sit in Amrit Vela with a plain intellect. What does that mean? It means that I'm not always having an agenda. I'm thinking about something, I'm absorbed in something. You know, I'm always trying to work things out. I'm always busy in the head. I sit in front of Baba. I have no agenda. I can take. And Baba said, sit in front of Baba and Baba will touch your intellect. And really, this brother was unbelievably creative. And I think that's the way, the method of creativity, to sit in Amrit Vela, suspend all my agenda, processing, analyzing, trying to work out everything. Just sit there and let God influence you. And the creativity is with yourself, not only in life, because quite honestly, we're often very uncreative. We come to Baba and we hear a meditation commentary first. Who am I? I'm a soul. I connect to Baba. And that's how I meditate every time. And yet, when you do the same thing all the time, you get bored. And then your mind will wander. You have to, gyan, churning gyan is creativity. And when I have, excuse my throat, when I have a topic, what I often do is I love to sit at Amrit Vela and I just try to open. And all these ideas come, then I start to write. And it's amazing that Baba opens the whole thinking to whole new ideas and perception. So definitely I would say purity is the seed of creativity. Beautiful question.
Yes, thank you, Bhaiji. Beautifully said. You did not only you did explain what is the relation with creativity, but you also explained how to increase our creativity through purity and sitting in front of Baba during Amrit Vela. One interesting question is that Bhaiji, nowadays actually our India is also becoming like the culture of India is also getting westernized, and still Maya is everywhere, and still we have the curiosity of foreigners. And today BK Ashish brother have asked one question: how in foreign culture BK family sustain purity with the help of Baba's knowledge? Is there any major challenges they face, and how it is different from India? So can you just give some insights on this, Bhaiji?
Yeah, I think that, you know, I was talking about this, that, you know, about 20 years ago, there was a Harvard professor who wrote a book about, it was called Clash of Civilizations, and it actually talked about in the past history, cultures never interacted with each other. So Europe stayed in Europe, China stayed in China, Japan in Japan, India in India. But nowadays, it's like we have this mass communication. Everyone lives everywhere. Like in the country I live, 1/3 of all people were born in another country. There's every single country in the world lives here. Every single country has a large community here. And even in the Brahmin family, we have 75 different nationalities, just in the Brahmin family in Australia. And we have Christians, we have Jews, we have Muslims, we have Parsis, we have every imaginable group. And I think it's a really wonderful thing, because in this book, what this professor was saying was that when each culture looks through their filter, other cultures, they have a superiority complex. They think our culture is better. And it's not. It's just different, that's all. And that's what, so the Europeans think they're better, the Chinese think they're better, the Americans think they're better, you know, and the Indians. And so everyone has this superiority complex, and look at what happens in our world. So much arrogance and conflict in that way. This is why I love soul consciousness, because, you know, there's no doubt each culture has its uniqueness. And there's no doubt the Western world is about freedom. So, you know, it's a very free and open in that way, which is both challenging and a blessing, both at the same time. And I think that, you know, if people here make a decision for purity, they absolutely follow it. They're really committed to it quite deeply. It's not half-half. It's their decision, because they couldn't do anything they want, but they've made this decision to follow purity in that way. And so, yeah, I find that, you know, there's differences and there's similarities, because, you know, the body is just the body of one life, and there's no doubt culture has an influence on the thinking in this life, but, you know, we're all souls, we're 84 birth souls, and so there's more similarities than differences in that way.
Thank you, Vaiji. We are getting so many questions, but we are also near to the end of the session, and I think one last question I may just will ask you. The question is, how we can identify that we are improving our purity?
Happiness.
Okay.
You'll feel quite happy. You'll feel quite light. You'll feel easy. You know, if I look at my whole journey in Brahman life, I've relaxed a lot. I feel quite easy about everything these days. And really, the sign of purity is the soul is full of joy, full of happiness. You know, purity is the mother of peace and happiness. And happiness is the treasure of human life. And that's what people want, happiness, but they don't want what creates happiness. Because everyone wants happiness, but if you tell them it's about purity, purity in your thoughts, purity in your attitude, purity in all aspects of life, then they're not so interested. But actually, you know, really, I was fortunate. I did spend quite a lot of time with Daddy Prakashmani. And, you know, she was so joyful. She was so happy that her vibration, you know, I've traveled in America and Australia and Europe and India with her. Her vibration, I could see she'd just come in a room and lift everybody. You know, the vibrations of purity just create that attraction of happiness. So the sign is happiness. That's the first sign. The second is self-respect. I just feel comfortable deep down about who I am. I'm not fighting myself. I'm not disapproving myself. I'm not putting myself down, criticizing myself. I really, and it's not an arrogance, it's just a sense of, I live in my own self-value. I feel comfortable about the person I am. And thirdly, you feel strong. You feel much more willpower and strength to do things, not to react to things, not to, you know, if something affects you, you bounce back quickly, etc. So purity is the seed of taking all my power, happiness, and self-respect back.
Yes, wonderful. Actually, we really want to move on for moving forward for the meditation, but one question was repeated 3 times. That was about the purity because of caused by the social media nowadays, and because of pandemic, we all are, most of us are work from home. So that question is there. Bhaiji, just I'm requesting you to give answer of it just in 1 minute, like some main mantras for that, if it's possible.
You know, yesterday's Sakamoli Baba said that don't gossip. And then he said, you know, newspapers print wrong things, or the modern newspaper is social media. Honestly, it's so much misinformation. You can't believe anything. I say to everyone, the only thing of truth is the Moli. Everything beyond that is all opinion. And it's said with these days, falsehood appears as truth. And people get so deceived by gossips and things going around social media, images on social media. I would really, one gross image on social media can trigger feelings and thoughts. And, you know, we've got to be really disciplined and use it, but use it with maturity so that I don't just have the habit every moment spare, I just look at my phone. It's like you've become subservient to these sorts of things. No. They're just instruments for us to use, just like any form of service.
Yes. So thank you very much, Bhaiji. We have covered some important questions today, and continuously there are some questions are coming up. Not only in Zoom, there are questions from on different YouTube platforms also. We really hope that we will invite you again and you will come for us, and you will answer all our remaining questions in some other in coming days in some other session. So moving forward, now I request you to just take us like to the journey of give us some experience of meditation through your commentary. We have 10 to 15 minutes. If you could really do some commentary for us and give some experiences. So we'll play some soft music and you can continue, Bhaiji. Om Shanti.
Thank you so much, Ashil and Chandan Bhai. Thank you, brothers. Let me sit quietly. And reflect deeply. How close do I feel to Baba? The way, the method to come closer and closer to Baba is to increase my purity. But sometimes the soul feels that some habits are very deep. And to increase my purity is not so easy. So first I need to experience the attainment of a pure life. When I experience the attainment of purity, I am naturally attracted. When I use the natural methods, it becomes easy. Purity will give me the gift of true self-respect. I will feel deeply comfortable with who I am. Purity will give me the taste of true happiness. A happiness that will travel with me in every scene of life. And purity will give my inner power and inner strength back. So let me sow the deepest seed to recreate purity in my mind. Let me hold this thought that in this life, Baba, you are everything. Baba, I've searched for you for 63 births. And to completely heal, completely transform, and taste the blessings of purity, I need all relationships with one Baba. This powerful truth will recreate deep purity in the soul. Just visualize Baba in the eye of your mind. See a radiant jewel of light. Don't let the mind wander. Just keep my focus. And in that jewel is an ocean of love. A quality of love I will not receive from anywhere else. Now become like a small child and allow yourself to be completely loved by Baba. Open your heart and feel Baba's divine love, pure love, live streaming into the core of your being. Just have this one thought, just feel this love entering me, healing me, purifying me. And just feel how this pure love makes you feel so satisfied, content, like I have everything I need. Baba, if I remember you and only you, if I love you deeply, if I fall in love with you, I will naturally remember you. And if I naturally remember you, I will naturally become pure. The most powerful point of spiritual knowledge, it will make me pure, restore my purity, is to have all relationships with the one who's incorporeal, egoless, and viceless. I then become like the one I love. When I have all relationships with one, purity is natural. It's not forced. It's a natural consequence. When I love one and I remember one. Om Shanti. So
Om Shanti. Yeah, Brother Charlie, I'm Praful here from Pune.
I'm sorry, I can't quite hear.
I'm Praful from Pune. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So thanks, brother, for this wonderful session today. Indeed, it was pleasure having you with us. The 1.5 hour span flew away so fast that, it just glimpse of a second, probably it went away. But the insights which we got from your talk was amazing. I think we got different aspects of the purity which Baba wants us to imbibe. And I think there is a lot of points for us to reflect on. So really wonderful, brother, having you here. And as Sushil Bhai mentioned, we would love to have you again in future. So on behalf of all the team of Jagdamba, Bhawan, Pune, all the Kumars joined today, 300 plus, and on behalf of all the sisters, I take this opportunity to thank you wholeheartedly for joining us today and giving us wonderful explanation on Baba's understanding of Baba's insights on the purity aspect from all of us. Thanks a lot, brother.
Thank you so much, Prabhupada. I really appreciate. Thank you so much, Sushilbhai, Chandanbhai, and all the brothers and sisters. Much appreciation. Hope to see you again. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Om
very much.
Shanti. Thank
Om
you.
Shanti. So all other Kumars, I would request you all to still wait. We will be having a small activity and a small closure. So before we start with the activity, I would like to run a small poll just to understand, get a glimpse of what was the language you heard today's class, because this will give us an idea of arranging the other events. So on your screen, you will find a question, 29th August language poll. So you just need to select which language did you hear today's class. If you were in the main room, then English. But if you have selected the interpretation option to listen Hindi, Telugu, Tamil, Kannada, so please select that and submit this poll so that we get to know and we can arrange for the future events as well.